fact that I counted all their gear.
I guess so.
You sure?
I guess.
How many of you usually push the clock in the morning before coming to school? I know I do. I have a 2-year-old. Have you guys ever thought, or how many of you have garage doors? Has anyone thought to consider that when your car is parked in the garage door, what would happen if your garage door doesn't open and you're pushing the clock? Kind of interesting, huh? Well, today I'm here to inform you about how to get out of your garage door if your spring breaks, how to perform maintenance on it, and the safety aspects of that. I have repaired and installed garage doors for 10 years now. The garage door in a home is the largest moving object in a home. It can be one of the most luxurious things of a homeowner and a renter, but it also can become a very fat, big pain in the rear end. Simply, if the spring breaks, you can't get your car out, and you'll be late. And sometimes you have to call in and tell your work you can't get out of your garage. You're not going to be able to make it into work today. So things that, like I said, we're going to talk about how to get unstuck out of your garage if your spring breaks, the maintenance, and the safety. First of all, to be able to notice if a spring is broken, these are called torsion springs. This is usually, if your garage door has a torsion spring, is the very top of your garage door. If it's broke, there will be a 2-inch gap in between it, the two pieces. First things first is it usually takes 2 people to get out of a garage door if the spring is broke. 1 person to operate and push the button on the wall, and 1 person to pick up the garage door. Always leave your garage door opener, if you have one, attached to the garage door. Don't ever undo it. With the person that's taking the place of the spring, you simply have the person push the button on the wall, pick up the one side that the spring is broke on, and lift the door up. It's not extremely heavy, you're just helping the opener open the door. Second, we'll talk about is the maintenance. According to Don Vandervoort of homeownerstips.com, the best way to prevent a garage door from growing obstinate is to inspect it every year for loose and worn hinges, springs, and other hardware. And when you notice a problem, to address it immediately before it has a chance to worsen. Some parts of a garage door that are important to check are the rollers. You have rollers on both sides of your door that run up and down a track. One thing to look out for is to see if the edges of the roller are worn. A lot of them are metal, some are nylon, and some are just simple plastic. The plastic ones seem to wear out the most. One of the things you need to do is you're looking at the rollers and you need to lubricate them where the shaft enters into the wheel itself. That is a very critical spot to oil every year, at least once a year. One of the things you need to use, you can use is WD-40. WD-40 works fine. Sometimes you have to use it more than once a year just because of the dust that it collects in the rollers. The next part that's important is your hinges. There's several hinges on each section of your garage door. You'll see some of them with 2 parts to the hinge. Both parts need to be lubricated. One is for the roller and one is for the hinge to bend. And sometimes as the door goes up and down the track, those rollers slide in and out, and sometimes they get stuck, and they can create a problem for your door to open. You just need to be able to keep them lubricated. There's also some bearings. There's 2 bearings, actually 3 bearings on a garage door. Where the tube goes through the garage door on both ends, there's one of these. These are called bearing plates. There's a bearing that the tube sits through right here. That allows the spring and the tube and the cable to wind and go in circles. That needs to be lubricated. In the center of your springs, there's called a center bearing. Sometimes these are metal, a lot of times these are Teflon. And what this does is it's where the springs are attached to the wall, generally in the center of the garage door, there's this little nylon roller that sits in between the tube and the spring. That needs to be lubricated because a lot of times this will start to squeak as the door goes up and goes down. And this keeps this also, the purpose of this is also to keep the tube straight so that the tube doesn't move up and down inside the spring and make the spring do what they call a slinky, where the spring looks like this. So those are the important spots to make sure that you lubricate and check often. You know, once a year is great, but if you can check it more often than that, you'll save yourself a lot of headache. If the spring breaks or if the roller goes out and the garage doesn't go, it'll also last longer. One other thing that you need to do as you're checking the maintenance on the garage door is they call it a down force and up force. And this is on your opener itself. A lot of the newer garage doors have photo beams to where if you walk through the garage door, the door automatically reverses. So you want to be able to check the force on that. So you put the door in the open position and shut the door on your shoulder. You want enough pressure for it to shut, but not enough pressure to squish something. And then as the door reverses and goes up, hold on to the door and make sure that the door is going to stop so a child can't hold on to the door and ride the door up. And the next thing is to unplug the opener, take the cover off of the opener, and make sure there's no big debris left inside the opener itself. That's pretty much all the maintenance is. The last thing is safety. You have the cables, you have this torsion spring and this center bracket. Stay away from them. They're like a cocked loaded gun that is just waiting to go off. There's hundreds of pounds of kinetic energy that are wound up in those springs. So stay away from them. Just glance at them, make sure there's no kinks or frays in the cable. In conclusion, leave the opener connected, have two people if the spring breaks. Once a year, check the hardware and lubricate, and never touch the cables or springs. Once again, the garage door is the largest part of your home, and I hope I've provided you with the information to make your garage door an important part of your homeowner's maintenance.